Are you guys ready? Whenever you're ready. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to Roosevelt this evening. We're going to review the bond issue. There's a lot of information here. I'll try to make it as quick as we can, but please ask questions as we go if you don't understand any of it. As we go through again, please ask questions. I want to first start with the purpose of the bond and how we got to this point. In 2013, the Facility Needs Committee put together a plan, and the Facility Needs Committee was made up of people all across the community, from the hospital to the newspaper and just parents, several different organizations involved in that, and studied the whole district and wanted to identify what the needs were in the district, facility-wise. And one of them the other day just told a story when I was presenting to a civic organization that as they went through this and started, their charge was to identify needs, structural needs, HVAC, those types of things. And right before they started touring the schools, that was when the Sandy Hook shooting took place. And they're on a school bus and they started walking in all the buildings, and their priorities changed a little. They knew they had to look at all of the things with HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all of those things. But then they really sat back and looked at security and safety. And a lot of this will focus on security and safety issues, and we'll talk about that as we go through this. But an incident like that right before they started looking at final recommendations has a huge impact. And then right after that was the tornado in Moore, Oklahoma that hit the elementary school. So again, it reaffirmed what their charge should be, more geared towards security, safety, those types of things. We had the folks from the committee come to the school board and do a presentation and recommended what they thought we needed to do to address the needs of the district. And they came up with a little over $100 million in what was identified as needs. Board looked at that at the very beginning, studied it, and we didn't go forward with anything at that time. Just wasn't the right time to try to do a bond issue. So we came back again this year, looked at it. Board looked at the big package of it, the big pieces of it, and wanted to look at what can we pare down to get it under $100 million. They took the recommendation from the Facility Needs Committee, with the exception of the RAC building, our central office building, was in the recommendation to be rebuilt, more than likely at the high school. We wanted to focus on kids and put everything that we had into facilities that address kids' needs, security, safety, those things. So the board took that out, that part of it out, saved about $7 million. And when we studied this, we were going to repurpose Washington Elementary, and some of those things changed because at that time we didn't know exactly what would fit in that building. And since that, we repurposed that into early childhood connections, moved those classrooms out of the elementary schools into Washington. It's a perfect fit, freed up space in the current elementary schools. So other than those two things, just about everything that they recommended, the board went ahead and addressed. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about, one of the things they talked about was deferred maintenance, and that is upgrading things like electrical systems, plumbing systems, heating and cooling systems. Those things are what we talk about deferred maintenance. One of the first questions asked then are those things that just were neglected throughout the years. In 1993-94, there was a bond issue of about $6.6 million, I believe, that addressed some of the heating and air conditioning systems and did address some of those types of things. Again, that's been 30 years ago that a lot of those things have been looked at. And one of the things then that we want to do is upgrade structures and the things that in the buildings that have to do with electricity, HVAC systems, plumbing, heating. Building structures is another area they looked at. That includes windows and doors. And if you go around to different elementary schools or any building and ask teachers and principals and kids stories about their buildings, I hear all the time about kids having to clean up the floor from the last snowstorm we had, snow blowing in through the windows, those types of things, and melting. Pretty common problem across the district. We'll look at a few pictures here later of some of the deferred maintenance issues we're talking about, rusting of doors, those types of things. The other one, the big one, security and safety. We only have about 22% of our students that have a structure to go into as a designed tornado or storm shelter. And that was just what we did at the middle school with the FEMA build or FEMA addition there. Everyone else has areas they go into, but unfortunately some of our elementaries, this elementary has a place underground, but then there's a door right outside in part of it, not designed for tornado shelter. You look at Lincoln Elementary, or not Lincoln, I'm sorry, you look at Wilson Elementary School and O'Laughlin Elementary, and the kids are in the hall with skylights above them, doors on each side. And when I mentioned Moore, Oklahoma, that was one of the things that they had talked about when we visited with them, and all over the news at that time, was that acting as a wind tunnel, the hallway. So obviously those are some of the big concerns. We talk about security. We don't have any of our buildings that have a true secure system that we can tell what doors are open, who comes and goes. The middle school is the only one that has their front door locked. We had an issue last year, I think, or the year before, and they changed their protocol a little bit. But they don't know if somebody propped a door open or not. So we want to address secure entrances in every building to where there's one place that's open, come into the office, have to check in, do the security scan with the driver's license or whatever system we have at that time, and then to be able to tell if somebody propped a door open. The story that I've been telling is Grinnell, Grainfield, a couple years ago had the high-speed chase down interstate, and they locked the school down because it was coming right by there. And sure enough, the gentleman pulled right into the school parking lot, jumped out in the back of the school, walked right in. They thought they were locked down. One of the cooks in the morning had propped the door open with a rock or something so she could come and go. Totally forgot about it, or she was actually done with her job and didn't think about checking it. They had no idea it was open. The gentleman is in the building with all the kids thinking that they're secure. Those are the issues that we talk about when we talk about secure entrances and being able to tell if we are truly in a lockdown and be able to adjust and make the things happen that we can't tell right now. The facility renovations that we're talking about, ceilings, lighting, those are the types of things that we started, and as we go through the process here, we started at the high school quite a bit, putting in LED lighting. We do that bits and pieces as we go across the district for different projects. We'll look at that at the middle school as we do the new HVAC system there. But it's going to take us over 90 years to upgrade all of our electrical systems. That's not just replacing lights, but the whole electrical systems that we need to replace. Over 90 years if we follow the same procedure that we have now and have to do all this out of capital outlay and use capital funds that way. Replace worn out finishes. There's some pictures. I don't think they're on our slideshow, but if you do a tour after this building is one that if you look at the doors, the laminate doors, the peeling off, coming off, when we talk about finishes, we're talking about the walls, the floors, those types of things that would all get addressed, whatever the need is in every building. Renovating antiquated educational spaces. We are standing in what we call the cafegimatorium. And almost every elementary school has this type of setup to where it's the gymnasium, it's the cafeteria, it's the stage area, it's anytime there's an assembly, it's used for the same things. When we talk about updating, we're talking about addressing the need here so we have a easier time scheduling what we need to in this and not have to serve lunch so early and some of those things. We actually serve lunch at one of the elementaries, start before 11 o'clock, and the middle school starts before 11 o'clock, and they go a couple hours, most of them, and it takes a big portion of the day then to get through the lunch, and then 5 minutes to pick up, have the custodian to come in and start the regular scheduling programming that we have. The facility expansions, every building, and the slides will be up here, every building other than the high school has what we call special ed addition built onto it. And when I say special ed, that isn't every student or just for students that have an IEP or have special needs. It could be areas for our counselor, areas for title reading, any type of services that way. Right now we have offices, psychologist offices, counselors' offices, any special program that way for reading. A lot of those places are in broom closets, custodial closets, in areas that were never designed to have kids. And you look at Wilson Elementary, every time I walk in the counselor's office, it's not funny, but I have to laugh because the desk just barely fits in the room, and she's sitting there trying to counsel a student and has, literally this much space, just tiny, tiny areas. This will address that type of need throughout the district. Another example is the psychologist at O'Laughlin. His room is next to the music room. And every time, the kids are coming and going out of the music room, obviously there's a big disruption, and then just the noise from the music room, and trying to have a session with a child is a little bit difficult. But it would address all of those things. Expansions, the storm shelters. As we go through the slides, you'll see that the elementary schools, other than O'Laughlin, has a gymnasium associated with it, a multi-purpose room. That doesn't mean that we'll have 2 gyms at every location. This area right now that's the gym and cafetorium will be music/cafeteria, other needs, other spaces that we need. So every one of those spaces is going to be redesigned into other areas. We're not going to have 2 gyms in those areas. Middle school, when we get to that slide, we'll look and see the additions there. Again, special ed areas, and then it does have a practice gym, small gym. It has a new media center because we will repurpose that into the special ed, special classroom area. The cafeteria at O'Laughlin Elementary School then will also serve as storm shelter, and I'll go through the list of where the storm shelters will be as well. Additional classroom space, like I said, greatly needed. We'll address those things. The next slide here shows where the money goes. And you can see the biggest area is for expansions. That's 32% of the bond issue, and about $30 million goes for expansions. And when I say expansions, that's special ed classrooms, the offices in those areas, elementary classrooms, gym, vocational classrooms at the high school, auditorium, storm shelters, safe and secure entrances. Those are the things we're talking about with those. Safe and secure entrances, safety and security, 23%, that has to do with the entrances. We have to add on some additions in those places that will have the secure entrance, and then tornado shelters and those things. The systems that we need to put in with key cards, that type of thing is included in the safety and security. Deferred maintenance, again, that's 19% of the total bond. That includes it. That is $18 million. That includes HVAC systems, electrical, plumbing, all the things that I had mentioned before, floor repairs, masonry repairs, those things. Renovations, ADA accessibility. We have so many areas that we are not compliant with ADA requirements. We have 2 elementary schools that are Washington and Lincoln that have 2 stories, and we don't have an elevator. Actually, Lincoln Elementary eats lunch in the basement of that building. Any child that can't maneuver stairs, or adult that can't maneuver stairs, either has to be carried down the steps to eat or eats at a different location. And that is just wrong. This day and age, and we still have buildings that without elevators and access to that. Washington is the same way. They eat in the basement, no access other than the staircase. This plan does take care of a lot of those things. Renovations, though, efficiencies, lighting, those things are what we're talking about. Tech equipment and furniture, that is a generic percentage of the architects put on there for tech equipment. We're not talking about new computers for kids. It's the wiring, it's the access points, it's all of the things we need to bring the technology into the renovated or new areas. Furniture, it's obviously desks, those things to equip the classroom. Site improvements is a huge one. We'll show some examples of what we're talking about. Site improvements that has a lot to do with safety, parent pickup, drop-off, bus pickup, drop-off, and addressing those types of things. And again, I have a lot of stories that I could tell, and I know out here I hear from the neighbors occasionally that they can't get in or out of their driveway at all before or after school. I mean, it's basically you wait till school's, everybody's done, and then you can either get in or out of your driveway. That's pretty common. And then elevators at the 2 buildings, the 2 elementary schools, is 0.6%, and that would put an elevator in Washington and Lincoln. The next slide has a few pictures of deferred maintenance, and you can see, it's a little hard to see here, but you can see examples of the rusting doors at the high school. That's the newest building, 34 years old, or no, 37 years old, and 34 years old. And it's the newest building, and we have issues with the doors all rusting out, and if you shake them, and you could actually probably break them off. That's just one area that we have to be concerned with. The other one is a pipe. You can't hardly see it. The slide doesn't do it justice. Marty the other night I know had, I don't know if it was that one, but several issues that have happened during activities or during the day where custodians or somebody has to come in and replace pipes, plumbing fixtures, all of those things. It was pretty graphic, I think, when he had his pile of plumbing that they had to address. The picture of this pipe came, I was at a game the other night, and a custodian had this. They had to fix it, and it has a big hole corroded through it. And as we're sitting there talking about that, and they had just replaced it, a lady came out of the women's restroom then and said, oh, there's a big water leak in the restroom. And again, corroded pipe broke, had to turn off the water for that time period, fix the leak, mop it all up, and go on. But that's pretty regular. This is the newest building that happens all across the district, really. Ceiling tiles, you can see the damage across the district in several areas. Flooring, we talked about replacing flooring and fixing flooring. There's an example of baseboards and tile missing and just old antiquated tile. And again, another picture of the rusted areas in the high school that need to be addressed. The next set of pictures here has to do, the first slide is Wilson lighting, and this is pretty typical across the district, still having, and some of you won't know what I'm talking about, but the T12 bulbs and lighting systems, they don't make those anymore. And I know I look back at the plans and some of the things, and we were talking about, well, we need to upgrade those to T8s, and they're getting, that's old technology and old systems as well. So now we're looking at LED lighting, but through this system or through the bond issue, all of these things would be addressed across the district to upgrade lighting. Obviously, the efficiency is going to be huge, how much electricity we use for lighting, let alone the heating and cooling systems and those things. Again, more plumbing issues at Wilson. The crack in the wall, the bathroom wall is actually in this bathroom. There's only one bathroom, I think, and I didn't realize that till I met with the teachers, but there's one set of bathrooms here for all the kids, over 400 kids, am I right? Two sets. O'Loughlin's the school, then it has one set of bathrooms for all, or one set of boys' bathrooms for all of the kids there. So obviously we'll address those types of things. But structural settling, cracks, those things, you can see the picture here, and it's in one of the bathrooms. But as we were going through this and doing the facility study, there was a crack that had to be addressed at the middle school gym and also at the 12th Street auditorium that we actually had the engineers look and architects and make sure that it wasn't a major issue. Those were repaired, and they're not major issues. Yes, they are issues, but I mean, there's not a safety thing that the wall's going to come down, anything like that. But those are issues that we see more common all the time with settling and cracks in the walls. You can see the bathrooms, the sinks in this building. I was a shop teacher, and that's the sink I had in my shop 30 years ago. And they look like it's dirty. None of these things are dirty. It's just corroded, rusted, and needs to be upgraded to a modern system. Wall damage, it's hard to see here. All of those things would be addressed. And then the flooring in front of the doors are usually the little squares so that it's easier to replace. But you can see the damage or the tiles that are uneven, trip hazards, those things. So they would be addressed as well. It would take us 90 years, like I said, to replace all of the electrical systems in the district that need to be replaced if we had to do it without a bond issue, if we wanted to try to do it through capital outlay. The Hayes High auditorium would be the tornado shelter. The middle school is already done. Lincoln, the gymnasium, would be the tornado shelter. O'Loughlin would be the cafeteria. Roosevelt would be the classroom additions that we'll take a look at. And Wilson would be the gymnasium there. But every school would have a designated tornado or storm shelter that is engineered for that purpose. The first building here that will come up is the high school. And you can see the additions here. You can see the auditorium addition, renovated classrooms, the safe and secure entrance, where the pointer, and she'll point these out as I talk about them, is pretty much at the front of the building where it is now, but that would be the only entrance that would be open during the day, and they'd be able to tell what doors are open. Other areas there, the vocational area would have an addition and everything redone at the in that. Oh gosh, Marty, how old is that addition? Was it the original high school? You may not even know. I know it's but it's a metal type building, so obviously it needs to be upgraded and a lot of things done there. We talk about rusted doors and water. And I had a question on the art court. How much are we spending on this art court? And what that is basically tearing out the concrete that's sloped into the school and sloping it away so we don't have water running into the classroom. And I know when I was here first started and did a tour of the buildings, and it just had rained, and there was an inch or more of water all over that classroom, and the cabinets are either rotted out if they're wood or rusted out, but that's pretty typical as well. So Mr. Magis was telling me the art court is removing that slab, putting it at the right grade, and probably landscaping that area. So it's not a art court as this big expensive thing. It's concrete work and a little bit of landscaping. The gymnasium, competitive gym, would seat about 2,000 people. If you have been to a high school activity just Tuesday night with typical game on a Tuesday with Dodge City, we had the dancers there and it was packed again. Pretty typical. If you have kids that wrestle, it is, the mats are rolled up on the sides of the wall. We can't get 3 mats down. The gym doesn't fit the size of school that we have. You look at other schools our size and they have much bigger areas, or a much bigger gym. And when the Facility Needs Committee looked at all those things, all of those things were considered. That if we really want to host things, we get asked all the time to host sub-states, regionals, all those activities, and we don't have the seating that we're supposed to have or the space to do it, but we do accept them occasionally just because of the location, and it's kind of a pain to try to accommodate all the people when they're standing out in the commons area as well. That is pretty much all the additions at the high school. Any questions, anything there? If you look at your handout, right behind each picture, there's another page that, and I'm not going to get into that, you can look at it and read it, but there's a page that addresses the cost per building for deferred maintenance, whatever additions there are, those things, and you can see a total amount, and then it has some of the architect's notes as well behind that. The next building then is the middle school. That building's 54 years old. The original part of it, you can see the special ed addition. Right there is the library, current media center library. That would be reconfigured into classrooms and offices and things for just what I had mentioned. And then an addition built out to make up the other space that we need. The media center or library would be an addition right next to it. The current one would be remodeled. The entrance to this school, the main entrance, the secure entrance, would be in the west parking lot and reconfigured. And every time we go to a school and do this presentation, we have a lot of good dialogue, questions, comments, and one of the things here that isn't on the slide is additional parking. And staff, if they have to come in and out that one door, that's pretty much where all the parking is during kids start getting there, parents start lining up very early, that's going to be an issue. So we'll address some of those things as well. But the safe and secure entrance would be there. One of the big concerns in middle school is the lunchtime. We need to expand the cafeteria and kitchen. Right in the middle of the building, you can see the additional space. Again, we start serving there before 11 o'clock, and if you have a middle school kid or ever been in there during lunch, you'll know what I'm talking about, and it's just mass chaos, not because of the kids being inappropriate or anything. It's trying to serve over 600 kids in the shortest amount of time you can, and it's just nonstop trying to run them through the building. But we want to address that in every building, but middle school is probably one of the worst areas with lunch. It has a new practice gym associated with it. My guess is that it would have a few bleachers so that if they wanted to play their B game or something, they could, but it isn't a competitive gym, practice gym. And in the center part, or right next to it, reconfigured that, wrestling, locker rooms, those things. And I guess one of the things I heard about why we practice at 6 o'clock in the morning, a lot of kids are there for about everything at 6 o'clock trying to get their practice in. And a lot of it has to do with the showers and the number of showers they have for the number of kids. And there's not enough time for them to finish practice, get cleaned up, take showers, and do those things without being late for school and having time to eat breakfast if they wanted to. So that's something that we need to address as well. Again, safe and secure entrance is important, and we've already done the FEMA building, or FEMA addition there. Again, it's broken down right behind there on what each one of those cost. Lincoln Elementary is the next one, and you can see the big addition there is a gym. All of these things aren't to scale, but there's a new gym with a stage there. Their current gym would be the cafeteria, part kitchen, part music room, art, whatever they deemed they needed to have in that area. That would also be the storm shelter. The safe and secure entrance would be right at the front of the school, but I think we would have to add on a little bit of an addition on there because the stairwell is right there, not enough room to maneuver and do the things the architects were talking about. So that would be one area that would have to be added onto a little bit as well. The elevator that Sarah's pointing out makes it look like that's half of that room. It's not the scale, it's just to show that there's an elevator there. It would actually be in the custodial closet, and it would go from the basement up to the second floor, but that would be where the elevator went. Site improvements or traffic flow, we would have an off-the-street drop-off zone for buses, and as we met at Lincoln Elementary the other night, a lot of concern was, what about parent drop-off and pickup? That's a huge issue there, and if we can make some area, it's landlocked, but if we can have some area where parents can actually get off the street and do drop-off and pickup, and it would include or improve traffic flow as well as help the safety issues that we have there as well. The next building, O'Laughlin. This building, or this elementary, is the only one that doesn't have a new gym associated with it because the gym they have serves the purpose, but we need to build a cafeteria and kitchen area on this building. And you can see where it is, and that would be the storm shelter and take care of the needs for that. Bathrooms down in that area as well, and then you can see up towards the north corner would be special, pretty much where it is. It would all be redesigned there. Same type of system, use room areas, an addition there. Safe and secure doors are open. Big issue here, traffic flow. Right now, if you try to go down Hall Street before or after school with T&P and O'Laughlin trying to dismiss and start about the same times, it's impossible. I tell a story about the principal stands out in the street with the stop sign to let kids cross, and just this year, I mean, she was standing out there, and if you ever get caught in line, people get frustrated that aren't picking up a child, and then they start trying to find a way to maneuver around everything, and car just goes in the turn lane only, and she's standing there, doesn't see her, and literally she has to, suck everything in, pull the stop sign back, and the car rushes against her, and she thought she was going to get her feet ran over. But those are the issues we're going to address, is where we drop off and pick up. We've been working with T&P on Victory Road. What can we do there to help that situation? Architects are working on that now, trying to do that. So with plans of something that would obviously work better. We call this the loop road. It's kind of hard to see there, but loop road, if we can put that in, that could be a wetland area. So we're addressing that, see if we can do that. If not, what we've talked about is putting in a roundabout where we have the little turn thing now, but make it more functional. And the key, or what we want to try to do, is funnel traffic down to 12th Street rather than everybody come out on Hall. And whether we can make that happen or not, I don't know, but that's the plan. But we're working on those things now. Yeah.
Does the district actually own O'Laughlin now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And yes, they do. And in the area that it's hard to see, back where you see the baseball or softball field, you can see the property line is marked there.
Okay. I just
And
didn't know
yeah.
if O'Laughlin was owned by the district or if it was still owned by T&P.
No, we own that property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, $7 million into somebody else's building.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted
No, good question. The next one, Roosevelt, 49-year-old building, and please ask questions, interject anything. This is where we get the information that we can help as we meet with architects and things again. I'll start with traffic flow. One of the things that is in the plan, there would be a connecting road, drop-off, pickup, parking on this side of the building that would go from MacArthur over to Donald to help the issues that we have now, drop-off, pickup, those types of things. The new additional classrooms are in the purple on the north side, and we pared that back from what the original plan was. We did a facilities, during the facility study, we did a projection, growth projection study, and we haven't met what those projections were based on this study. So we backed that up. We had originally anticipated adding 5 sections across the district to accommodate future growth. We now have backed that up to adding 2 sections, which would be at this location. We average 11 sections of kindergarten through 5th grade. When I say section, that means we have basically 11 kindergarten classrooms across the district, 11 first grade, and so on. Those are averages because some classes have more and we have an extra one, or have less and there's not quite as many. But average is 11. This plan puts us at 13 sections to allow for future growth. Yes?
Talk about future growth. So how much future growth are we talking about? And has the town done any projections for the next 20 years, 30 years, where our population will be?
On what part of town?
Well, to cover any future growth.
We did those studies and projected that out. I don't know if it was 20 years, but quite a ways. And we are not seeing what those projections based on live births and the whole formula that they use to do that. We aren't seeing what the projections showed us at first when we first started doing the facility study. And we backed up, instead of adding the 5 sections to adding 2 sections here. And what we can do if the need is there and it wouldn't be an expensive addition is these are designed, and most of the other areas that we're adding on are designed, if you take out one wall or extend the hall down, you could add 3, 4, 5 classrooms very easily. That wouldn't take a lot of time or effort to do. But that's what we talked about. If we get to that point, that's what we would do. But we didn't want to add 5 sections of classrooms someplace and then have them set empty. So trying to do what we can to keep costs down and still have a plan for the growth. The area here again, the special ed area, is partially remodel, partially addition here. This is the building or the area that has probably the most space of anyone, which is really nice. That there's room to expand and do some different things, but that would be a little bit of an expansion there as well. And you can see the new gym would be out, where am I? Out there? And out here. And the connecting road would be there, and then what we're standing in now would be cafeteria / music or whatever area Lee and the teachers deemed necessary for that to be, and would adjust it that way. These are all concept drawings, and when the bond passes, the architects will come in and start visiting with staff and whoever they need to about actually designing the space needed to accommodate and do the best we can to make sure the areas are what we need and not have to worry about in the future changing those areas. Education has changed so much over even the last 10 years, and you look at 20 years, how much has changed. And that's when we say upgrading classroom space. We never dreamed some of the things that we would be doing now with technology, even the types of kids that we have in our buildings. It's not the same as it was when you guys were in school or when I was in school. It's changed a lot, and we need to accommodate that type of student in every building, whether it's kindergarten or 12th grade, and this plan does that. Yes?
On that next slide, and where the list is, the table of all the things, it still says classroom expansion of 5 sections, $3.5 million.
That's changed.
So should,
That should say 3.
no, that's what I'm asking, is the 5 sections, 3.5 million?
Oh, it changes the 2 5 sections here.
But I thought
Right
you
now,
told us there was only going to be 2 added.
it adds 2 here. We had originally talked about adding 5 sections total. That isn't adding, that is changing what we have in this configuration to 3 sections, 2 5. Did that make sense? Okay. And that's what we had planned on it being bigger, but then took off a couple sections because of that, so, yeah.
So it should read expansion to 5 sections.
2 5 sections, yes. Yes. Questions, comments on this building? Since we're here, let's have that conversation, if anything.
Well, I was gonna say my children go to O'Loughlin,
Mhm.
and traffic really isn't that bad if you don't mind a couple extra minute wait. Like, it might be backed up from 7:50 to 8 o'clock from the school all the way to 27th Street, but it's only for that 10 minutes or that 15 minutes. And after school, it's the same way. It's only like 15 or 20 minutes.
Right.
It's just that people have to realize that there's a school there. My children, we came from a bigger city, and so to notify that someone is crossing in the crosswalk, you push a button, the yellow light flashes, the cars stop. And sometimes I'll wait and wait and wait and wait at a crosswalk because their cars just aren't stopping.
Yeah.
So I've taught my kids, we live 3 blocks away from the school, I'm like, please, go to the stop sign, or the stoplight, push the button, wait for the crossing light to go, and then cross the street. Don't try to cross anywhere else, because there's not always a person with the stop sign at
Right.
the crosswalk. Luckily, there's been a police officer that usually sits there and waits, to make sure that, if the children need to get across, then that's good, but. At their old school, they had actually had, if your child was in kindergarten, then they got out 10 minutes before everybody else. And even that kind of lessened the load. Like, if they rode the bus, then they would wait in the gym at their number to get on the bus. But if they didn't ride the bus, the parents could come pick them up 10 minutes early, and that helped decongest everything. Just like you have multiple entrances to the building, and the building, like, some of these schools have full corners. So it's like, why is everyone using one spot for buses and then having parent pickup at the same spot? When you can have a bus spot here, and then a parent pickup here, and then maybe a walking section where they all have a safe place to walk on another side of the corner.
Yeah, all those things will be considered and have been considered in the past as well, and buildings have come up with the procedures they have now, but we'll look at any of those things. Any other things on this? Wilson Elementary then is the next one, and this is one that changed at the first go-round with this. We were going to have early childhood connections program addition built on this building, and that's where it was going to be housed. Since that, we've transitioned Washington into that building, or into that program, working exceptionally well. So now you can see again the area, the new addition is the special classroom areas, those types of things. But on the traffic flow up on that side of the building then, it has another big parking lot with drop-off pickup up there, and just what you were saying, those are the things that obviously need to look at splitting up. I know a lot of schools, they may have sibling pickup one area, they may have kindergarten and first at one, there's a lot of those things that could happen. Right now, there's only one place where cars can really pull in Wilson anyway. So we're landlocked in a lot of those places. Again, the gym, current gym they have now serves as cafeteria and everything else. It's probably the smallest gym and cafeteria that has, they have over 400 kids, a little bit smaller than what this building has, but huge issue trying to get everyone through lunch and then using that for gym, the stage is there, whatever other needs they have. That would be reconfigured into the cafeteria alone, and kitchen has a very tiny kitchen there. The other parts, you can see the safe and secure entrance. It would have the gym added, and then just all the upgrades that we had talked about with all of the buildings, lighting, plumbing, heating, cooling, those things. Any questions on any of the building things? I'm going to take a couple minutes and go through some of the finance pieces now, if there's no other questions on that. Yes?
I haven't been in Washington or Lincoln to know what the stairs are like, but if we're gonna spend $240,000 or something on an elevator, is there a reason that that was chosen over possibly like a chair, mobile chair, or something like that?
At Lincoln,
There's like a $60,000 fixing bill that might be down the road 10 or 15 years after that elevator's been put in.
at Lincoln, you couldn't get downstairs with that type of system. I mean, the way the stairs are. Now, you could probably get to the second floor possibly with that, but yeah. But some of the areas, I don't think you could do that at Washington either, to get down in the basement or where the cafeteria is. Right. The financial, or anything else? The financial impact then, and you can still see we have three scenarios that we're showing. And as you all know, we've been talking about the sales tax petition, trying to gather the signatures to be able to take that back to the city and try to get that on the ballot with the bond issue. And we'll talk about the impact that that has. I know our volunteers have worked diligently. They're out tonight trying to gather enough signatures. We were very close, and still we'll find out Monday. We need to turn it in if we have enough to the county clerk to have her canvass all those signatures and make sure they're accurate. But the impact that has, the first line shows if we paid the bonds off, the $94 million bond in 25 years, and it has two issues, just to explain what that is. That means you sell bonds at two different times. The first set to do the first part of the construction and another set to do the second part, rather than all at once. It saves money doing that. The impact would be 17.35 estimated mill increase. And when we talk about mills, that's $1 on $1,000 worth of assessed valuation. Usd489's assessed valuation is $300 million. So every mill generates roughly $300,000. And for us to make the payments just on property tax, we would have to raise the mill levy about 17 mills to do that, is what the explanation for that. On a $150,000 home, all this information is on the website. I think somebody on our webpage put something about a $100,000 home. All of that is on the webpage, I think from $40,000 all the way up to $300,000 or $400,000. Business property, farm ground, whether it's irrigated, dry land, or pasture, all those scenarios are laid out on the webpage of what it would cost. But it would be on a $150,000 home, roughly $25 a month, if it's all property tax, to fund the $94 million over 25 years. The next two scenarios are if we could get a half-cent sales tax, and that would start in July of 2018. And the reason for that is that's when the county sales tax, they had a half-a-cent sales tax to pay for the courthouse and other upgrades. That's when that one expires. And what we would ask is to have a half a cent sales tax continue after that point to help pay for the bond issue. And the difference you can see, and it would be 10 years as a special tax. And if 10 years from that date, if voters wanted to vote on it again and continue it, it could happen. But we have it figured for 10 years. And the mill levy, instead of 17.35, would go up the first 10 years $11.5 mills. And that's if we paid off the bonds in 20 years. And the difference between paying it off in 20 years and 25 years is several $1 million in interest. The other scenario right below it is paying it off in 25 years. The mill impact would be 9.5 mills for 10 years. And then it would go up to 17, and you can see the impact on a $150,000 home. And again, these are all on the web page. Would be $16.50 roughly. These are all estimates. And then if we paid it off in 25 years with that scenario, it would be $13 a month on a $150,000 home. So that's the difference in the sales tax. We should know next week whether the sales tax is even an option. We have to go to the city commissioners, and there's a process that has to go through. So we should know and then be able to have the final figures on what it's going to be, whether it's sales tax and property or all property tax. So we're working on that right now. Questions on that piece, and I'm going to go through a couple more things on the finance here. The next couple slides just have a list of comparable schools, 5A schools, and it has their mill levies, bond and interest, mill levy, and then the total mill levy. And on the next page, it has the averages. Well, you can see where Hayes is. We don't have a bond and interest payment, and we haven't had one since 2009. And at that time, the mill levy was 2.538 mills. The average of the districts here, the 5A similar size schools, was 13.9 mills. And we haven't had a mill levy for bond and interest since that 2009, and that bond was a little over $6 million, and it was for infrastructure type things, heating, cooling, some of those things. You can see the total mill levy, Hayes right now. This is without the rec commission. They run their finances through the district. But our mill levy is 46 mills, 46.24. And the average mill levy, total mill levy of these similar size schools is 55.286. And if you look at the next slide, it has a line graph here that shows just how flat we have been with the mill levy. For years and years. The first drop was in 1992 when they redid the whole finance formula. The state did, and that's why it dropped so much. They just changed the way things were funded. But we've been very flat and actually decreasing here. And I get the question asked a lot of times, well, why did we wait so long? And I can't answer why we waited so long, but we haven't had a big bond and interest payment for years and years and years. The last bond, big bond, high school, 1981, they moved in, and I say big bond, I think that building cost less than $6 million back in the 70s when it was built. And today, obviously, you couldn't touch that. So, but that was the last time we had a major bond issue, was the $6.6 million for infrastructure in 1992. I want to make sure I get that right. Other questions, anything? That's what I have for presentation that way. But now I'd like to answer questions and anything you have.
Could you discuss the projected cost increase the longer we wait?
The projections that the architects show are 6% a year. And that's one of the questions that comes up all the time. Well, can we wait or do bits and pieces of this? And when you think about the big finance picture for a year, just by waiting, we've waited long enough. And like I said, I know it was 1978 era that the whole high school was $5 million. And now to redo all the buildings in the district new would be $188 million or over $200 million. That figure was, I think, thrown out 2 years ago, so you add probably 12% of that. So every year those prices keep going up. So, other comments, questions? Yes?
Is it possible to fund a bond solely on sales tax?
Solely,
I mean, obviously not this one. One with Fairground.
I don't know why you couldn't if it was solely for that purpose. I don't think that's happened, but yeah, I don't know why you couldn't.
I mean, in the economic times that we're going through in the community with oil in the $20 barrel range, wheat under $4, I think we stand a lot better chance paring it down, funding it through the half-cent sales tax. I think that's something you can get voters to approve. I'm not sure that you can get the voting public to approve what you have in present day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm in support of it.
No, I understand, and we hear that as well, and that's, how do you pare it down? Those are the things, the questions come up when the Facility Needs Committee did the study and had all of those conversations about, what do we cut, and this is a lot of money, how do we try to sell this, and yeah,
I think to get some is better to get none, is my thought, so I'm just. that's
yeah,
just-
no, understand.
My thoughts here is, regardless where you stand on this, I think we're forced into this position. And that's just my concern in the future, is if we're gonna learn from that, we're not gonna push things to where they're so dilapidated or so far behind that we have no choice but to spend big chunk at one time.
No, I agree with you that right now, we have put together a long-range plan for facilities. We can't get caught up, exactly what you said. With what we have now for capital outlay funds, roughly $3 million a year, I'll say, is what we bring in for capital outlay. We just approved a middle school HVAC project, the air conditioning there, 1.3 million roughly. We'll pay for that over 4 years. And until we pay that down, we can't do another big project until that's paid off. I mean, we have these cycles that we go through. But right now, we do have a plan for vehicles, buses to do that. We've had, at times, a few years ago, we need to buy 3 new buses and 2 cars, or whatever it may be. We have a schedule now. We know what we need at certain years and can adjust and know how to finance those as we go. Same thing for facilities. When we get some of the facts and figures here, how long it would take to do something, it's all based on the long-range plan, but we know we can't get caught up. It'd take 30 years for a lot of these, and by the time you do that, everything's worn out again. So that would all be taken into consideration as we go to do things as we go and not wait that many years. Lincoln, I think, is 90, the building's 90 years old, probably the best built building we have. For efficiencies, you couldn't build a building anywhere near that now. Even though the building's old, it's one of the best, but we replaced the windows and doors, boiler, heating and cooling systems, and that building would last, another 100 years. That's the way they were built then. High school, like I said, the newest building, and probably has some of the biggest needs just because the times have changed and couldn't afford to build a building like they did 90 years ago. But
And you're right. That's part of the big reason why we are where we are. We didn't have a plan on how to handle the maintenance. We didn't have a plan on how to replace buses, roofs, solid plan on how to move forward, how to preserve what we're trying to fix, add on, expand on, and make sure that we're taking care of it for the next 20, 25, 30 years. So I think that's a great question. I think it's a very important piece of a bond proposal.
I don't think the public's gonna come back in 10 years and want to have to talk about an additional bond either.
No, yeah, I hear that as well. And I know it's tough times and you see what you can do and,
But let's
But
take
the-
advantage of the half cent. I said when they enacted that, when they first brought that in, guys, that's a sales tax they let go away. It's just gonna be, stuff's gonna be rotating in and out. We might as well get something. Something else is gonna fill that spot in 2 or 3 years.
How much revenue would that half-cent sales tax over 10 years produce?
There's 31.56 million.
yeah. It's a big chunk. And again, just because we have the petition doesn't mean that would happen. I mean, all the petition does is say that we want to put it on the ballot. The city has to approve that sometime. I mean, whether it's with the bond issue or at the next election, but sometime that would have to happen. But it wouldn't start till 2018 after the other one ends. We're not asking to put another half cent on anything. It would stay the same amount that it is right now.
And at the end of those 10 years, it could basically
It could be.
technically.
It could be, yes.
And during the initial meeting with the city commission, they strongly indicated that that half cent sales tax is going to stay in place. Part of the discussion there was, well, times are tough, as the gentleman back there indicated earlier, and that the half cent sales tax is going to be utilized for something going forward.
I think doing the petition and getting it on the ballot, I mean, in a way, we're kind of trying to earmark it for the schools, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, we're close. We just, I mean, the deadline is to have the county clerk have enough time to canvass those and make sure they're all legitimate signatures and we have enough, and then it'd have to go back to the city,
What do
but.
we have right now that are campus? I read in the paper,
We had 838 as of yesterday, but I've gotten a lot of word from a lot of people that there's many more that have been collected today.
Yeah.
So we'll canvass before we get into the
There's volunteers out in neighborhoods now, and one of our biggest volunteers here on that initiative, what do you think today?
I think it's gonna be good. We'll be going out to some businesses this weekend. Some of you may have seen me in the drop-off today with
Yeah.
your kids. Thank you for signing, those that did. Several of them already said that they did. Before I left the high school, I had several people that were already lined up to pick up kids, and Dean's talk at the Rotary Club, he said, I already heard the speech, let me sign. I didn't even have to say anything. So that was great. Sarah did a call out, if you have a phone, you got a call. Another lady said, yep, I heard the call. And so we are doing some efforts that I think will help, and every little bit does make a difference. And whether it's a 5-minute conversation or a half-an-hour conversation on the porch, taking that time to sometimes listen to why they will either vote for it or why they won't vote for it. Sometimes I learn a lot even from the people, out of the signatures I've collected, very few people have been adamant no's. There's been very few people that.
We don't have a lot of information out now, and honestly, we really haven't started the bond campaign. I mean, this is information. We have a committee, we'll have people out doing their presentation on this that'll have more, I don't know, what,
Dean's Bridge there is someone working on a presentation, and there's a speaker bureau, and whether they pep it up a little bit, shorten it up a little bit.
It will
get
be.
A little bit more to that. Dean has to be very careful, making sure he is just giving facts. Fund Our Future First is a volunteer program that you can get involved in, you can donate to, and Madness is March 8th. If you did not know that, March 8th is a great time to donate to Usd489 Foundation. And you can even earmark it for something, or you can say Fund Our Future First. But your money them sign up and volunteer, we'll take you that. If you wanna do door-to-door like I've been doing, that's great too. And along the way, I think this is an important year. Some people don't know how to register to vote. Give them a card and tell them we have 18 locations in Ellis County where to register to vote. It's pretty simple. Mr. Straub, I think, brought our county clerk to the high school. And that was a great information for our seniors to kind of get involved and learn a little bit about their civic duty. And that's kind of my daughter. I brought her along today and she said, Mom, why are we doing something so boring? And she says, why do we have to do this? And I said, you're right. I don't have to do this. And I can't even sign the petition because I don't live in the city limits. She's like, why are you doing this? I said, I'm choosing this to do this because I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And that is I'm giving my time because I think it's the right thing to do. And I think most of us agree it's the right thing to do, and it's a big chunk. But when I look at that salesman, that money that he put on there, and I go, what does that mean for me per day? That's less than $1 a day. That's a second cup of coffee. That's if I go out, that's maybe not getting a soft drink with my Happy Meal. And I'm like, okay, can I do that? And yes, at the end of the year, that adds up. It does. And we will have to make choices. But for that $1 a day, I can make sure that every student in this district has a neighborhood school that's open, that's ADA accessible, that has a safe tornado shelter, that has a safe entrance, and that has a spot that's designed for them, and that has maintenance that hasn't been taken care of. And I don't know all the history, but when I started getting involved, I started asking more questions. And the more questions I asked, the more questions I had. One was, I heard, well, Dean's leaving, so let's just wait for the next item. I don't want to wait. I think this is all the more reason. We have somebody who's well-versed in it, who's taken the time. We have a board who's taken the time. And I figured out that I realized that this bond proposal wasn't created by this board. It was not created by Dean. They're carrying on a legacy that actually is almost not quite a decade old. And I didn't realize this process has been going on for not quite 10 years. There's been people working on it. And to me that says, and I started learning the people that's on the committee and all the work they've done and the different studies they've done, and I said, this is not just something that they created and pulled out of a hat. This is something that they've really talked to and said, what are the needs of our district? And they've taken time to create it. And it used to be a lot bigger. And they said, no, let's pare it down. We're in tough times. We can't have this huge thing. And they started doing all of those things. And it comes down to then they think, well, we don't want to put one school over another school. The schools are more important. And when it all comes down, I'm thinking, it's $1 a day. And that's kind of where I'm at on that. So that's why I'll vote yes, and that's why I'll continue to volunteer. And I'm going to give the show back to the
Any other comments, anything? And like I said, we just are in the infant stages of the actual campaign. We'll have people out door to door, being on radio. I appreciate Mr. Ballman and his class filming this tonight. They're going to be filming testimonials and doing a lot of other things. Eagle Communication, gosh, James has been here at every one of these. I don't know if he's heard anything different or not, but there's a lot of people involved. But this is the very beginning stages of that, trying to give you just basic information. We will have our Speakers Bureau out and about doing presentations, and they actually may start doing this presentation rather than, especially since it's filmed, rather than myself, and then they can get into a little bit more detail and a little more adamant about why this needs to happen. But again, we have to be, as a district, we can't put the funds in it, we can't go out and be the advocates to vote yes, but that's what the committee's for. If you're interested, we still are taking volunteers. So I think if anybody wants to do a tour of the building or look at anything, Mr. Keffer's in the back, and he'd be more than happy to do that. But I want to thank you. I'll be here if you have questions that you want to ask. If you haven't signed the petition, would like to, I think Sarah probably has one here. But again, thank you for coming. It was a good crowd, and appreciate it. Don't hesitate to call all that information is on the webpage too, so.
And that webpage is?
www.usd489.com. So, thank you.